Hello, Tom Levecki here with the latest edition of the New Theory podcast. We have a very special guest today. But first, we also have a co-host for one of the first times, Ankur Garg, who's on the show. Marketing genius, legend, I would say in the making, living legend, as I like to call. He was the guy who was the number 2 guy at Shreds. We did a first part. We released it a few years, what was it, 2-3 months ago?
Yeah.
And the part 2's coming out. Stay tuned for that. Ankur Garg, welcome as a co-host to the New Theory podcast. How you doing, man?
When am I going to get my New Theory shirt? I need like a branded polo.
Make that 2 New Theories.
They're somewhere in the garage. So we have somebody with us today, a fellow podcaster, a gentleman, Luis Guzman.
Yes, sir.
Who has so I am an artist, not a salesman podcast.
Yes, correct.
Welcome to the New Theory podcast.
Thank
How
you,
doing, man?
Thank you. Doing great. And listen, first of all, thank you. And thank you guys for having me on the show. I really do appreciate it. I know time is the most important thing in our lives, so I'm thankful you're sharing a little bit of your time with me. So I apprate that.
God bless.
Absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about, the name first, and you probably have some ideas about the name, because we're salesmen first. Well, he's more of a marketer, creative.
But we're all in the same kind of...
He's more of a marketer, creative,
right.
And he's an artist, so I don't want to dump him in that, but we're all business people, right? Me, I'm a salesman before an artist. So just be honest with you. Although I'm creative, I sometimes feel like I'm the opposite of that, right?
Gotcha.
So what brought me out to your podcast is to help connect with the artistry of business, which I love. So give us how you came with the name of the podcast and tell us a little bit about you.
Thank you. So my name's Luis Guzman, sales director, writer, husband, creative, etc. Right? I'm an artist, not a salesman. So the way I came up with that title, it basically came from a friend of mine that kind of downplayed sales. And the way he downplayed it, which to this day, he doesn't know that he inspired this. And I'm not going to tell him yet. But he said to a friend of ours, a mutual friend, we were talking, you got to talk to Luis, man. He's a salesman. He can sell anything. He can sell anything, And I kind of felt like, but this is more artistry than anything else. So you kind of made it seem like I was a sleazy salesman in a way. And I just got kind of tired of salespeople in general having that kind of rapport, like, oh, they're just sleazy, they want money, they don't care about humans or quality, etc. So I started thinking, I'm an artist first, because there is an art to what I do. It's not just like, buy this. Like, there's steps that people don't understand happen in that process to get you to that yes. And I feel like I've cultivated some type of niche with that. And I want to spread it to the world, but what better way to do that than to share other people's stories? And, within that, the way we kind of met was I wanted to finally speak about my story because I wanted my audience to connect more with who I was. Because the podcast started, it was great, it still is great, but everyone always asks me the same question, who are you? And I thought about that, I paused, and I said, you know what? I think it's time. Because, once people know who the host is, they'll have more buy-in to what the guests are saying. So that's how I came up with that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you had some cool guests on, Al Santillo. So,
that was a hoot.
And interesting story. So Santillo's Pizzeria is an institution in Elizabeth, New Jersey,
Yes.
for that matter, and burnt down. He's rebuilding. He's kind of doing a tour, if you will, because his place burnt down and being rebuilt. How did you get him, and how did that conversation go? More importantly, what did you learn about from the conversation?
Great question. So again, I'm from Elizabeth, New Jersey, born and raised, and like you said, institution, right? So very fun fact that no one really knows. First time, and this might be like blasphemy, but I'm gonna say it anyway. First time I ever had Santillo's pizza was about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And
Say, what?
Yes, brother, yes. And believe it or not, it was my wife that told me great things. I always knew it was great, but I just never got to it.
Cut the podcast. What 2 years ago?
Yeah,
2 years ago.
Defense, so it was like hard to get to. It's like North Broad.
It's like you're right by Bayway Circle. You only go there if you're going to the Turnpike.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
In fairness.
Yeah. So again, but I made it, which is the good thing.
All right.
And fell in love with the pizza, fell in love with the story. And I just reached out to him. I said, Al, listen, we'd love to have you on. I think you are a monument of history in Elizabeth, and your story needs to be talked about in a more in-depth conversation.
So,
guy was cool, came on, amazing interview.
Do you remember what year of pizza you ordered?
19, God, I don't remember.
65.
19 something. I'm plain, man. Give me pepperoni pizza, I'm happy. That's all I want. And extra crispy. Give me that, I'm good. My wife likes the grandma pies.
Yeah.
That was the first pie I had from Santillo's. And I'm not a grandma pie type of guy.
Yeah.
I eat like 5 slices.
Do you ever have Tommy's hot dogs? It's a little. not too
Yep,
far
had
from
it too,
that,
man.
so-
I ate
Do you
Tommy's
have
hot
that?
dogs,
Good
the,
course.
the
spot.
French
Yeah,
fries in the cup.
I am an actual foodie. There's not going to be scenarios where you're going to say something I haven't been there.
If there's food, I'm there, dude. 100%. So yeah, so the interview went great. We got a lot of great feedback from it. Al was amazing till this day. You know, we're in good contact. He wants to come back on. We're gonna wait until everything's back up and running, and then we could probably do a second episode there.
That's
So,
awesome.
yeah.
So sometimes you have a podcast. Well, not sometimes, most of the time. And sometimes people have different objectives, right? Sometimes it's a part-time hobby, side hustle. Some use it as a customer attraction tool. Some do it for just straight business, you know, like nothing else P&L.
Some do it to get new dates.
There you go. Many different reasons. Many different reasons.
Right.
None of us need that here, thank God. But
Podcasts are greater than Tinder.
there you go. There you go. So
So this is me adding the
This is
salacious
the on.
to new theory.
Yeah, you gotta need this. I told him this off camera. You need the
I'm trying to get
salaciousness
you those
now, man.
keywords. You know what I'm saying?
there you go. We're gonna get a lot more.
My
reviews.
man.
Oh, we got one good hot take so far.
For
so
real.
With that being
One for the
said,
books.
what was your like initial objection for the podcast? And are you still kind of doing that, or did you kind of pivot as to?
Good
as you grew?
question. Beautiful question. So my initial objective with the podcast was to, as I was telling you, share stories, share inspiring stories, share stories that can evoke some type of emotion into somebody that is depressed at home and hasn't gotten out of bed in 5 days, who has a gift but doesn't know how to kind of formulate it, who has a passion but doesn't know they even have it yet. So it was my vision in the beginning was a driving tool for someone that's inspiring to be more than what they are. I say that because I myself went through depression. I myself thought I wasn't good enough. I myself thought I wasn't talented. So it took a lot of time to cultivate who I am today. And I'm just a residual of all the, you know, bad, good in between that's happened to me. So I want people to hear the bad and good in between from someone that's successful to carve their lane into what, you know, they want to do. So
How did you? You don't have to go to the super specifics, but how did you get out of that? Because I know a lot of people that at some point had bouts of depression. How did you kind of emerge out of that? And what advice do you have to people that are maybe struggling right now?
Thank you, man. That's another beautiful question. So I always tell people you got to look inside first, right? Look into yourself and be honest with yourself. A lot of the times people project onto you their fear and insecurity because it's hard to look at yourself and say, oh man, I have to change. So the first thing was me having to look at myself and, you know, what do they say that insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. So we're going back maybe 7-8 years. I was 300 pounds, shell of who I was today, addicted to marijuana, smoking weed 3-4 times a day, eating all the bad food you could think of. And we're foodies in this room, but I'm talking about the crap food. Like 3 a.m, Italian cheesesteak from like the corner bodega
With the bag
with
of
a
Funyuns.
CNC soda, a kill breast, like hot sauce, mayo, you name it, right? So drowning myself in bad food, bad choices. And, you know, it wasn't to, I mean, obviously I started the weight loss journey. When I met my wife, I was like 270. Met my wife, the biggest thing that changed my life. She is, and I don't want to sound cliche because everybody says this about their wife, but I wholeheartedly mean this. She is a blessing in my life because, you know, once we met, woman of faith, I'm a man of faith. And, you know, her turning me on to what I was doing wrong and understanding that I'm held accountable to a higher purpose, mind changing. But it just changed everything. So that's where the real work started happening. And I'll never forget the day I stopped smoking marijuana. I was on a plane ride back from Miami, and I was watching Bohemian Rhapsody. You ever seen that movie? Great movie. Great movie. It was about, I think, Queen, right?
Yeah. Freddie Mercury.
Lead singer Freddie Mercury, addicted to heroin, making bad decisions, and the end result, he passed away. And those 3 hours on that plane ride, watching that movie, changed my perception of life. And I said to myself, now's the time. You don't want to wake up and have regrets. You don't want to wake up and let people down. And number 3, you don't want to let yourself down. So got off that plane, and I'm talking about cold turkey, done, and got serious with my health, got serious with my self-care, therapy, etc. You name it, and here I am today, just trying to spread that on to people that are hurting and are afraid to tell you they're hurting. But if you get on the other side of that, there's relief, there's understanding, there's awareness, and there's definitely a better life.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Bro, has someone ever told you that you have a amazing sounding finger snap? Like you could be an ASMR actor. It is like
I've worked on it.
It's
I've
like
worked
the
on
perfect amount of bass.
Well, it's all about cadence.
It's quite impressive.
Thanks,
So
dude.
you gotta help me understand this. So at what point were you in business during that depression? Were you working? Were you not working?
Good question. So yes, I was actually working. I was doing sales, and I was so great at what I did and still do that I was able to kind of go under the radar and not make it seem like I was, sad or accept whatever. So it was like I was using my gift, but my gift was on neutral. It wasn't 150 miles an hour. And the minute that I lost the weight, I started going to therapy, started, doing more self-care things for myself. That's when the change, that's when the acceleration happened with my gift.
Can I get into the weeds?
Of course.
So I come across people all the time that have similar questions, right? It's like, hey, I'm in depression. I lost my job, or, I lost the confidence in myself, or whatever that they're dealing with. Therapy is always something that those of us who have gone through it and successfully will bring. I've gone through therapy, right? We'll bring up like, hey, like you should really consider this, mostly because the conversations will get you to start thinking about what needs to change or what needs to improve. For people listening at home, I mean, on your podcast, are there like go-to questions that you feel like everyone needs to really tackle when it comes to like how to approach therapy? Because I can't tell you how many times people are like, oh, therapy doesn't work. I don't believe in it. It's like, okay, well, you probably didn't ask the right questions,
Right.
or you probably didn't like give it a chance in the right direction of where it needed to be.
Good question. You have to connect with the guest in a way that makes them feel loose enough to tell you what the pain is. Perfect example, I had a guest on, Jamai, a great singer, great artist, and I asked him a question that no one asked him, and he was doing like a press run for this documentary that he released, which is an amazing documentary. And no one ever asked him this, and I just asked him why, because we felt like we had the rapport. And I said, a little backstory: his mother was killed when he was young by her boyfriend. So no finger snap there, but it was rough. And I asked him, I said, have you forgiven your mother's killer? And I mean, you do it. You interview people. I saw the flicker go off in his brain, and I saw the hesitation. I saw the pain, and it took him a while to answer it. And long story short, he essentially said, if he's dead now, so yes, I forgive him. But if he was alive, I probably wouldn't forgive him. So that introduced the therapy conversation. Listen, I get it. You're hurting. I'm hurting. We're all hurting. We need community. We need to speak about what's going on in here, in our brains. And his response was, not ready for it. I'm aware. I know one day I will, but not yet. And I guess to answer your question, I know I'm circling. It's something you want to touch on, but you can't push, because it's like something very emotional to the heart for people. So I always try to advise it by having those real conversations about personal things, and then see where it goes. Like, when you're pushing a kid on a seat on a swing, it's like just a little bit more, and then I want to go higher. And then that's kind of how therapy is, because once you get to that mountaintop, you can breathe, and that's where you start to see change. But everyone at their own pace. I have my pace. You have your pace. You have your pace. All you can do is say it out loud, express it, but never push. Let them decide.
So what worked for you? What was the thing that they had to push on?
Good question, man. So really, it was me, because I've always been pretty intuitive about my feelings and about work, etc. And it was a moment where I was actually taking a shower, and I was looking at this, the place I was living at. It was just, I was like, how did I get here? Paint the scene for you. The tile on the bathroom was pink, which is very 80s. Shower was disgusting because I wasn't cleaning it. And I'm looking at the wall, water hitting me, and not crying, but sad, pensive. And at that very moment, I hated who I became. And I didn't want to be here anymore. I was 34-ish. Don't quote me on that, but I was around that age. And I said, in 34 years of my life, I never felt this way before. Something's wrong. Bells and whistles are going off. I need to fix this because I'm a person that takes action. I'm not a person that just gets complacent and kind of says, all right, well, somebody's throwing dirt on me. Just go ahead and finish the job. That's not me. So I sought out therapy. First therapist that I connected with had 2 sessions. After the second one, I said, never again. This guy was horrible. I think he needed therapy. I'm not even joking. It was bad. And it was kind of like a letdown because I fell into that trap. Oh, therapy is just a scam. I don't believe in it, blah, blah, blah. Interestingly enough, I did a job for a client, great person. And this person introduced me to my current therapist today, who has literally changed my life. The first time I met this therapist, I didn't show up. I was scared. Going back to like running away from the pain, right? And she gave me a mouthful. She said, you stood me up. I'm a professional. I made time for you. You are very hurt. From the 5-minute conversation we had, you need therapy ASAP. Stop playing. She's like my mom to this day. I love her. And I said, okay, we're going. And she's Italian. She's tough. She's tough. She's a great lady. Her name is Carla. And I said, all right, Carla, I will go. And second session in with her, crying my eyes out. The pain, it's like a faucet when it turns on. Once you hit that moment that you know, oh, shoot. Now you know, so you can't unknow it. And that's how the healing journey began,
Wow.
Tom, have you been to therapy?
Hey, how about you, Tom?
A little bit, but I should be. Should be.
Tom's like, I got Italian family. Every conversation is therapy. Guys.
Yeah, I'm worried that like if I go to therapy, they'll have to like revise some of the chapters in the DSM. That's what concerns me.
Well, I think the misconception with therapy is that people think you're going to go in there and feel good after a year. Let me tell you something. It is work. Yeah. Just like, you're married, I'm married. That's work. You don't just wake up and propose to your fiance. We got a house, we got kids, we got the white picket fence. My job's done here. No, you have to go to date night. You have to wash dishes. Yeah. Sometimes you got to do the load. Sometimes she has to do the load. It's all, partnership and working together. It's the same thing with therapy, but your partner is your mind. So you have the tools that the therapist gives you. Yeah. But the people that normally say, oh, I tried it didn't work for me, because you're not doing the work.
So so as you kind of dealt with and fixed and still continue to fix because it's an ongoing process, some of your personal struggles, right? Did your performance get better as you fixed your personal?
Oh, yes, 1,000%. Because you can't have one without the other, right?
You shifted into gear, bro.
Into gear, but I was on neutral. I was literally on. You ever seen the movie Click with Adam Sandler, where he was on like just neutral and that was me. I was gifted and great, just likable, just didn't have the extra motivation or drive. Yeah. And then once I tapped into that unknown resource, oh man, the sky was the limit. Now, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, so I'm just wondering, is there anybody that, because I went to my first conference, I went to the Patrick Bet-David conference. And,
that's awesome, man. You saw The Rock.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
I was supposed to go to that.
Yeah.
You've never been to a conference before that?
More corporate, like they hired people to come, or the motivational ones, but never like a 4-day Tony Robbins walk in the fire, fall back, stuff. I just never was into it.
I'm Indian, right? So when we're like 2, they're like walk across the fire. So I'm used to it.
Yeah, but you gotta do it for work, though.
I had to do it just to earn my dinner. Okay, forget work. You all thought Italian mothers were tough. Let's be honest.
Oh, snap.
I was gonna say. So that said, is professionally, what content do you consume? Do you go to some of the conferences professionally? So you kind of give some advice for people who seek their personal, health, mental health. What are some of the professional stuff that you like?
So as far as mental health, Carla's my
Yeah.
go-to for everything.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll hear things here and there,
Yeah.
podcasts, etc. But going every Tuesday to therapy is kind of like, okay, I'm gonna lift the veil, let out everything. I got the tools. I made it through another day.
Yeah. No, but my question was more if you don't mind, was
No.
more focused on for your professional development. Are
Oh,
you
my
a Tony Robbins guy? A
Oh, good
PPD
question.
guy,
Good question. Good question. So
Dean Graziosi.
the one book that I am like enamored with is The Greatest Salesman in the World.
Who's that?
Yeah, it's Og Mandino.
Oh, okay.
An amazing book. And the quick version, it's a salesman that's on his way out, and he gives these gold scrolls to a potential salesman. This guy was horrible. Couldn't sell anything. And then he started reading the gold scrolls, and he became the greatest salesman in the world. And at the end of the story, I don't know if it's true or not, but again, we're going back, but it's more the information within the book that was important. He meets Jesus, which is intriguing, and they tell Jesus he is the most greatest salesman in the world. But the point is the tips that the book gives you. As I was listening to it, because I'm a listener, I can't read. I mean, I went to school for
do
English.
Audible.
I read a lot in college, so I want to listen now. I don't want to read anymore.
Audible or just,
Yeah, Audible. Yep, it's on Audible.
My book's on Audible.
Oh, I gotta read your book.
There we go.
We're gonna get into that later too. Is
How do you get an autographed copy of an Audible book?
You could just-
you're right in the air. Actually, you want to go old school? When I got it made, I got like 50 CDs sent to me. So it was CDs back.
That's
in the
freaking
day.
awesome, man.
Tom, it's 2024. When did your book come out?
Yeah, when did your book come out?
Oh, my book 13.
Wow.
2013.
Yeah.
What's it about?
They still had CD drives in 2013.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
There's no
in your
way.
car.
I feel like MacBooks lost CD
I
drives
think
in like 2008.
my 16.
Are you putting it at your car?
Is it audio CD? Yeah.
Luis, Tom is way older than I
I
realized.
think.
Sounds an OG,
wait a
man.
second. I would take a picture. I think my Nissan Max still has a disc drive.
Next, he's gonna be like, I had to walk 10 miles to get to class.
Yeah.
And
I came here.
I packed lunch in my
came here
knapsack.
cover-
Yeah, I had a CD Walkman with me.
So what happened was, I wrote the first edition, 2013, and I think I have an audiobook with the first edition, and I had an actor read it because I'm not sitting there for. It's 8 hours to produce an
That's
hour.
a lot, dude. Yeah.
So I got that done. They upload the audio in those distributors. But part of the deal was you got like CDs sent to you.
That's so cool,
And you
man.
sell them on Amazon and sold a few. And
That's
I
awesome.
you sold some in person when I used to do all that. But yeah.
That's sweet, man.
Yeah.
We gotta.
But it's on Audible.
I'm gonna check
It's
it out.
only an hour. It's
Please.
quick.
No, I would love to hear it because I'm in the process of writing a book myself.
I think they discount the credits because it's that bad. I'm just kidding.
Stop, man.
That was actually bestseller 2 times over. It probably sold about 3,500 copies, which isn't bad for a
That's sweet.
self-published title.
That's freaking sweet,
Yeah,
man. What's
and
the name?
I X Factor selling system,
X
and I
Factor
didn't
selling
have like usually the hack is you generally have an ecosystem. Oh, you're doing a talk here, they buy 40 books. You're doing another talk to a corporation,
Got
they
it.
buy 500. I did talks and stuff, but never exceeded more than maybe 20 or 30 buying people. So my books are like one-offs and two-offs. So I probably sold about 3,700 books on like 20, probably closer to 3,400 sales.
Wow.
Individual transactions.
That's freaking
yeah.
awesome, man. You
So-
see, you don't even realize what you're doing now. You're inspiring me because I don't know if you, but I was telling Encore here that I'm in the process of writing a book and started it 2 years ago. Okay, and I'm my harshest critic, and it's a sales book. But I'm just so, this is like you're the artist, right?
Yeah.
So you're so insecure about your art that you don't want to let it out so people can critique it, because that's what happens to art. It gets critiqued.
Yeah.
So I'm just so hard on myself. So would love to, Ben, talk to you off camera more about that, because I'm in that space where I'm like 7 chapters in,
Yeah.
and it's feeling like I'm closing in on wrapping it up, but it's just frustrating because you want it to be great,
Yeah.
but when you're in that process of writing, you're just writing.
Usually, believe it or not, it's like kind of you seem like a perfectionist, which is a good thing. But it's, believe it or not, I was told your first book, just get it done.
Just get it done.
Because, I know you do, but many, but no, I'm saying, like, because, like, everybody has a book in them, right? Especially a guy like him. If he really sat down, he has the marketing angle, like, straight business, entrepreneurship, right? You as well. So
I could also do cooking.
there you go.
I could do dating advice. I could do restaurants
You
in New
cut
Jersey
lawns.
to eat at.
What's your best prepared meal that you make?
All of them.
What's your favorite?
I do really, really fantastic Indian fusion dishes.
Really?
So I can fuse Indian styles with Japanese. I can
Oh,
fuse
wow.
Indian with French, Indian with Italian.
How's your tiki masala?
I mean, you got only one way to find out, Tom.
Of course, you
got to come over.
I'm
to
still
one-
waiting
I
for him
will.
to say I'm just joking. You're serious.
No, yeah. I'm
You
actually-
get down in the kitchen like that.
I'm a pretty bad.
Come on.
bad chef, yeah.
It's a cooking pod.
I'm actually going to possibly do a pop-up kitchen for some Indian fusion.
That's
like
nice.
things like probably in 2025. And we'll
dope.
get there. Listen,
dope.
I'm going to allow this inspiration thing to happen, but I forbid you to get CD drives.
No CD drives. I promise, man. This will be download right to your library.
Do not harm the environment with more CDs.
No more
in it.
plastic, nothing.
I think I may have one around. Maybe we'll auction it off.
Oh, that's so funny, man.
All right. So you start the podcast. You had some cool guests on. I saw Tony Hodges' podcast. I actually reached out to him.
Oh, nice.
So he seemed like a good guy. I want to check out his place. Who was your most inspirational guest that that you haven't mentioned yet? Obviously, you mentioned one or two, but your most inspirational guest that you walked away like getting a lot more from it than maybe they did for being on the show.
Good question. I would have to say off the bat, Eddie G. He owns
the
Barcode in Elizabeth, and it was kind of like a 360 moment with him because I known Eddie G since I was 14, 13 years old. And that's when he had Palos Tumberos, which was like a very small version of what he has now, the nightclub.
That was huge.
And and I seen him grind it out.
Yeah.
No college education, barely graduated. I don't even think he graduated high school, to be honest with you. But he always had that drive and hustle and go-to attitude. When I met him, I was an artist and I was rapping. And he was getting me into the scene, but he wanted me to be a reggaeton artist. And I wasn't too fond about rapping in Spanish. I was really hardcore 90s hip-hop head. So, so anyway, we worked together on some things. It didn't pan out, which was cool. We're still great friends. But seeing the naturalization of Eddie G from when I was 13, 14 to today, I would have never imagined him. No college education, barely any high school. Multi-millionaire, and not just the millionaire aspect. Who cares about money? It's not about that for me. It's important, right? You need it.
It's like the scoreboard, at least.
You need it if you don't die tomorrow. You know what I mean? So it's important, right? But he's impacting lives. He's hiring people. He's helping the economy in Elizabeth, New Jersey, putting other people in position that I knew when I was young, and now they're like the head of his marketing. They're running his podcast. Yeah. So just seeing how he evolved from a tiny little nightclub to this empire, that was inspiring.
I don't know if you saw it back in my library, but I had Mike Ruga on the podcast.
Mike Ruga, yeah.
And I interviewed him in Eddie G's office.
Get out! I got to see that.
On Elmore Avenue. Yeah.
Stop. Yeah, Mike. I was supposed to manage Mike.
Oh, interesting.
Funny story. Yeah, we did a skit like 5 years ago. He jumped into my buddy's pool, screaming Drake's name.
Was that in Scotch Plains?
That was in Scotch Plains.
Yeah, because I was like living in Scotch Plains, and he jumped in the pool. I'm like,
that was me.
He's around the corner from me.
Get out of here. Yeah, that was Scotch Plains.
Yeah.
And then we had talks about managing him.
Yeah.
But again, you said it earlier, I'm a perfectionist, which is also my downfall, I feel. But I didn't want to take it on because I feel like I couldn't get him to where he really wanted to be because I didn't want to really promote that ignorance type of, you know what I mean? Yeah. And then literally a couple months later, he blew up.
Yeah, he got big.
Yeah.
So thinking like about Eddie G, so he has a huge place in Elizabeth. He's one. See, a lot of people. We talked about this earlier. A lot of people come, from somewhere to Elizabeth, or they're born in Elizabeth, and the whole idea is to get the hell out. Right? I'm just being honest, right? And
I hear you.
No disrespect towards Elizabeth, but my family came and they left. So he stayed and he built up a nice piece of business, a great piece of business. He owns Barcode. Is he on another restaurant? I thought
owns Barcode, Lobby.
Yeah.
He had several businesses over the years too. That some did bad, some did great, but he's always had his pulse on what Elizabeth. I'll go even further. He cares about the community.
Yeah.
So right now, if you go to and it hurts me because I'm from Elizabeth, I get PTSD driving down Broad Street.
Yeah.
Okay, it's dilapidated. It's a shell of what it once was. All the stores
Used
are
to be
closed.
beautiful.
It's horrible. So his passion to recreate that, I champion that because I'm not gonna do it. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
I moved out of Elizabeth, thankful for my roots and what it taught me. But I go back twice a year,
Yeah.
to see family. But it made me who I am. So like I said earlier, it's a residual of who I was. But I champion what he does because he's not giving up, and he's putting money into the community. So long answer longer. Long answer shorter. That's why I feel like that was my most impactful one because it hit home.
So we'll go out for digest. We'll go for a dinner, or an activation where we're filming, or we'll go to get an invite for dinner for a review. And there would have been a few times not long ago where it gets past 1 o'clock, and other bars closed in all the white neighborhoods. So you got to go to the lobby if you want hookah and drink.
Yep.
It's the only place open past 1.
Not fun if you don't know where you're at.
Yeah.
And I tell you this from experience. I mean, I'm thankful that, I was raised in Elizabeth, so I kind of know a lot of the good and bad people,
Yeah.
which you should know both,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Because you got to know where you're at. It's never where you're from, it's where you're at. And it gave me that street smart to know, okay, it's a little dark in here right now. It's 2:30. We should start heading out, et cetera, et cetera. I care about my life.
Yeah.
When I was 25, I was out there.
That's my excuse.
Yeah, you know what I mean? But knowing, seeing what can happen. I mean, I was 16 years old when I had a gun put to my head.
Right?
Yeah, 16 years old. These guys were looking to rob a good friend of mine who passed away, Irving. God bless his soul. We saw them get in a car and follow him. And then we got in a car and followed them. And, I'm 16, 17. I thought nobody could tell me what to do. I'm a gangster. I'm tough. I'm not. But we're going to ride for my boy. We're going to make sure he's okay. They noticed we were following them. They pulled over, and we pulled up right next to them. I was in the back seat, lined up with the driver's back seat, the driver's side. And I just remember some young kid screaming, coming out. All I saw was a white tee and black. And he put it right to my head. And to this day, man, it did something to me. Because, they tell you see your whole life in the blink of an eye. That's exactly what happened. But I went to King University. I had a class that night at 5 o'clock. I couldn't concentrate in that class.
course.
I just kept seeing that gun in my head. So going back to trauma, these are all these things that happen to you that you process at 17. How do you process somebody putting a gun to your head? At 17, I'm supposed to be going to school, going home for dinner, being a son, being a brother, etc. But this is the armpits of living in, an urban area like Elizabeth.
What did you study at Kane?
English.
Nice.
Yeah, I wanted to be an English teacher.
Oh, wow.
And, I did my junior field, my sophomore field, my junior field. I just couldn't get over the fact that I had to be in a building for 10 hours a day. It was horrible. I love teaching.
Yeah.
I educate people every day. But I just said to myself, I can't do this the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So I had to pivot, but learned a lot of great things, and then I found my real passion, which was actually just writing. I love writing. That's the one thing I want to make my profession down the road.
Oh, wow.
Because I love writing. And like I said, I was in music. I used to write songs.
Yeah.
And I used to, one night we do 6, 7 songs. You know what I mean? So, but I'm having a harder time mastering the artistry of actually writing a book, but baby steps.
So your day job now, we say day job because you do multiple things.
Yeah.
But your day job, you're a sales director, fence company, and you came up with an innovative idea to be have a content strategy for something that would seemingly be boring, would be fences. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing there, which is pretty cool.
Thank you. Yeah. So basically, I think the genesis of the question was you saying COVID, right?
Yeah.
I was sitting in my car, in my truck rather, and just got out the gym, endorphins flowing. And I said, man, this is the dead winter. We need to spark this up and we need to get business going. And I just turned on my camera and went on live, used my gift of charisma, used my gift of
Facebook Live or Instagram
Facebook
Live?
Live.
Okay.
Facebook Live, yeah.
Interesting.
Cause it's family oriented on Facebook. Instagram is like salacious, like, oh, I'm selling this bong.
You're not doing like an OnlyFans fence.
Yeah, no OnlyFans.
Only feet. Only feet. Only fences?
You're going to start an OnlyFans food page, man.
Not saying it doesn't
$50 a month,
already
you get some
exist.
subscribers, man.
It probably already exists, let's be honest.
But yeah, I did that, and again, didn't think anything of it, turned off the camera, and then I started seeing some traction. I said, you know what, let me use this as a springboard to educate people going into the busy season. And that turned into a constant every day, even if it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 2 minutes. Hi, how's everybody doing? Blah, blah, blah. This is what you need to know, educating the client, educating the consumer. And I gave out a lot of inside details that a lot of people in the trade wouldn't do. But going back to integrity and caring about people, I genuinely just want to help people. And if I make money, great. For my podcast, I don't make a penny off of that. And that's fine because
none of us do.
Yeah, I'm building it.
Whoa,
We're building
whoa,
it.
speak for yourself.
This guy's a
Speak
celebrity
for
here. This
yourself.
guy's a
He
celebrity.
makes
You know,
money.
he's you're on Spotify now and everything. He's a beast. But yeah, it's a passion project for me, the podcast. But the day job isn't. I got to make some money, right? So cultivating that, building that, educating the consumer. It started an influx of leads. It started an influx of awareness. And I'm going to people's homes and they're like, thank you. And for being so honest, thank you for this information that I didn't know existed. And it's there. It's just, who are you going to trust, right? In the contracting world, unfortunately, it's a very like toxic environment. A lot of people in the contracting world have a lot of addictions. They're fly by night. They don't care about customer satisfaction. I do. So that's the reason why I wanted to share information with my clients. And then that just, kind of spiraled into trying different stuff, like doing videos with the homeowners, taking pictures with the homeowners, doing contests. During COVID, we did do a fence in May and you get an iPad. We'll raffle off an iPad. We'll raffle off an iWatch, whatever, and it worked. And then the videos just kept growing, and I still do them to this day. But the biggest key that, again, is not even money related, and I didn't realize this. I was in Linden, New Jersey, and this was during COVID, and a guy gave me his business, sweet guy. I forgot his name, but as I'm doing the paperwork, when you're doing something and the peripheral, you can see somebody staring at you, you can feel the heat, and I'm like, why is this guy looking at me? So I turn and he's like dumbfounded looking at me. And I'm like, everything okay? He said, Luis, let me tell you something, man. And he put his hand on my shoulder and said, I've been on disability for like 3 or 4 months now, man. And you know what? This guy is almost in tears. Your videos, man, they make me happy. And I look so forward to seeing them because you know what? It keeps me going every day. And at that moment, it's like, you're doing these videos for education. You never think you're doing them to stop somebody from hurting themselves, or for giving someone some light so that they can make it through their day. So it was a very out of body experience. Like when that was happening, I don't know if you ever had that feeling. Like I saw myself out of my body looking at this guy telling me this, and it made me feel like I'm not just doing work to build fences and security. I'm not just doing work for monetary value. I'm doing God's work. This is gonna hopefully make him feel better and tell somebody else, and so that's what I'm in it for. It's for the human element. Like, yeah, cool, we're sell fences, cool, we make money, but do we really care about the people we're servicing? And I think that's
like that. God's work, one chain link at a time.
My man, come on. This guy's a marketing pro. I can
Put it on a shirt.
So hold on. So and I actually am buying what you're selling. I do believe that you are a faith first man. I love the fact that I mentioned I was chatting about the wives. You called your wife right away.
Yeah.
I follow you on Instagram. You're a God-fearing man. You're a great husband. You're a great guy.
Thank you.
Awesome professional, but
Great finger snapper.
great finger snapper. But so when the rubber meets a road, though. So for example, my wife is super supportive, right? And we do make money from the podcast, maybe not in a traditional way, but we net out making some money, right? But like, let's say you do a podcast. We all know. Let's call it 215 episode. Great. Second, third. You're in for like, a few G's now. How do you balance that out when your wife's like, hey, listen, I love what you're doing, but like our checking account's low, or hey, I love what you're doing, but like, or maybe she's cool with it and she doesn't mind. But what I'm getting at is, how do you balance out like kind of doing God's work and helping people, but then just the financial practicality of it?
It's a great question.
If you don't mind me asking.
No, it's a beautiful question.
Podcast.
No, of course.
You just sent Jesus an invoice.
There you go.
He pays us every day, brother.
That's right.
So again, passion project, right? So I'm the type of guy that if I'm going to invest in something, the ROI has to be there. I know that sounds kind of like totally opposite of what you asked me, but I'm doing it because I know that everybody has extra funds, right? You make what you make, pay the bills, you give back, you invest, you save, spend time with the wife, family, etc. And then you have your fund.
Some people call it funny money.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
So Atlantic City, you go to.
Yeah, there you go. So, I mean, my enjoyment comes from getting to know people. It comes from, obviously, I love vacationing. I mean,
And every time I call this guy, can you do a podcast? No, I'm on a plane. My favorite was I can't do it that day. It's my birthday. I'm like, what are you, 12? No, I'm just kidding. I don't even celebrate birthdays anymore.
Yeah, first of all, you've used that excuse with me before.
That is true.
I'd be going to call you out on that.
That is true.
I'd be like, hey Tom, can we meet? It's like, no, man, I'm on the beach in Asbury. Hey, Tom, can we meet? No, I'm trying this new pizzeria in New York.
This guy lives a life.
Hey, Tom,
he lives a life.
Hey, Tom, can we meet? No, I'm in the Caribbean enjoying vacation.
I had to block him a few times because I
Stop.
Because you're like, I'm supposed to come in certain days, and like if I'm in Asbury on like the ocean front, how do I say like, hey, I can't come in?
No. I almost got to the point where I'm like, Tom, give me your location.
Yeah.
I need to know.
I'm telling you, man.
Exactly.
Tom lives a life. I see you, man. You're all over, dude. Miami, Florida.
Yeah, one time, Tom posted a story that he was in Asbury, so I drove down there.
No, you
to
didn't.
see if he
Stop.
would be there, and he
I
wasn't.
wasn't there. I have a alter.
You did a latergram.
He definitely did a latergram.
He did a latergram.
I proceeded to enjoy the evening, but
So funny, man.
I love that.
Oh God.
Oh, so you're saying sorry.
I'm sorry. No, I lost my train of thought.
So who is Luis Guzman today?
Today, Luis Guzman. Luis Guzman is a man of faith, a husband, a provider, a brother, a son. He is the residual of his mistakes, but the proof that faith works.
So why should someone follow you on social media, and why should someone tune into your podcast?
I want to say because you're going to get cut and dry what it is that people want to hear without any filler. It might not be for everybody. It's not for everybody because, like I told you earlier, right now you can do something very salacious that is going to get 1 million views, but it's like, okay, I'm going to have a Big Mac and it tastes so good going down, but it's going to suck on the other side. And I'm not going to get no nutritional value out of that Big Mac except for the instant satisfaction. It's kind of the same when you're doing something that doesn't have like a long form of continuous intention, right? So what I mean by that is everybody wants the quick lick, how they say, like, oh, this is going to drive content. This is going to drive numbers. Slow and steady wins the race. But you got to put yourself in a position financially to set yourself up for that. I have a career. I'm very smart financially with what I'm doing and our plan. So going back to funny money, I can take a risk for a year or two and invest in this podcast until we make money, right? Obviously, the goal is to make money. I'm not going to do this for free for the rest of my life, but I'm okay taking a couple hits now to, number one, drive people to see what real unfiltered content is that can change your life. And you're not going to walk away thinking you got your time wasted, you got scammed. And hopefully, my biggest goal, to answer your question, why should people follow me? Because if you want to be inspired, you should follow me.
That's dope.
Yeah.
Okay, I'd ask you we're going to wrap up soon, but I'll ask you a question I ask all salespeople before I hire
My
them.
man. Okay.
I'd ask both of you guys. No wrong answer, but there's one
Oh,
that...
I didn't know we were on a job interview.
You go first.
There's no wrong answer, but it does mean... Well, for me, there's a wrong answer, but there's
Right.
a wrong answer for you.
Right.
Would you rather win or not lose, and why?
Would you rather win or not lose? There's no third answer, huh? There's no third option. I either have to win or not lose.
Yeah. Would you rather win or not lose?
This requires thought.
That's a very good question. This is like the critical thinking.
This is not a
part
good question.
Of like school when you had to do the critical thinking part of the exam.
Luis, come on, you know the answer to this.
It's getting there, man. I'm sorry. May you repeat it one more time?
Would you rather win or not lose, and why?
I'd rather not lose
Okay, why?
because if you put yourself intentionally to do something, the goal is obviously to win, right?
Yeah.
But as you set on this path to figure out what the end goal is going to be, you're going to be faced with a lot of adversity. You're going to be faced with a lot of challenges. And the number one thing in sales and in life, right, in general, is resourcefulness. So I never want to lose because my mind state is to never lose. If I run into a brick wall, I'm going to break it down. I'm going to keep moving forward. And that's where resourcefulness comes in. So I'm my mind state, failure is not an option. That's something me and my good friend tell each other all the time. Failure is not an option. I will not lose because I will be resourceful enough to find the answer to the questions that keep coming at me. And guess what? I failed many times, but I got up many times. Now, if I stayed there and let people throw dirt on me, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. You know, but that not lose mentality, it's not something that goes away. It's not something that you can just do it part-time. It's not something that you can turn on and off. It is a lifestyle. My life every day is not lose. I wake up at 3:30 in the morning every day. I do the hardest thing first in the morning. I work out. I go to the gym from 4:30 to 6:30 in the morning. It's the first thing I do every day. Right off the bat, finger snap. I love this guy. Right off the bat, I'm going to do the hardest thing first because that's going to create that grit of never wanting to lose. Now, when you do the hardest thing first in the morning, the rest of the day should be a breeze, but it isn't. But having that mentality that no matter what comes, I'm going to keep getting up. If you start your day that way, you end your day that way, you end your week that way, you end your month that way, you end your year that way, it becomes a lifestyle. So that's why I feel that I choose never going to lose.
What about you, sir?
I'm so worried about you, man.
Why, dude?
So out of love, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna drop some knowledge.
Bring it
here.
on, bro. Come on.
So people who answer that question with not lose, they're people that are driven with purpose, right? And they wake up and they do what they need to do. But if you're a salesman, the answer is win. Period. You have to be a dreamer and you have to shoot your shot and you have to have that finish line that's really far and ahead of where you want to go. Right? That whole Michael Jordan thing, you lose 100% of the shots you don't take. Mm-hmm. If you don't have a goal in mind to win, you're never going to reach it. But there's nothing wrong with purpose, man.
Well, listen, I
just
categorically disagree with you, and I'll tell you why.
With
Great
me?
answer, yeah.
With him?
With you. I'll tell you why.
And I want to
Neither of you were salesmen.
And I want to
And
say,
hold on, I'm going to tell you why.
and I want to add something to his
Real quick, I
response when you're
said
done.
this is a question I do when I hire sales reps. So
Right.
when I was in corporate, I probably
I
hired
didn't get the job.
about 30 sales reps, and then maybe a personal company, another 10. I want a sales guy and gal that is motivated to win. That's intrinsically, that's given, right? But I want somebody more motivated to not want to be on stage, right? Not just to be on stage, President's Club, whatever you win, right? I want somebody to not want you to have it and wants to take that from you to succeed. I want viciousness. I want rawness. I want somebody to say, you know what? Not only do I want this, I don't want you to have it because I want it. And seeing you have it kills me more than the joy of winning.
How does that disagree with what I said?
You said win as the answer.
How is not lose?
So
mean that
let's just say
someone
you
else
have
can't
you have a
it?
goal, right? You have a goal, and you achieve that goal, and you win. It's exciting. You hold the trophy, everything else.
So no one
right?
else wins because you win.
That's correct. But what I'm saying is the motivation behind it should be intrinsically to always win, right? That's why we're there, right? But to also be motivated and have that fire in your belly from the want and need to not let the other person have that over you.
But that doesn't mean not lose.
Yes, that does mean not lose.
How does that mean not
Because
lose?
it's greater motivation.
And think about it like this, right?
I guess this is a perspective issue.
Well,
We're
yeah.
going to agree to disagree on that
Yeah.
one, man.
We're gonna set up a separate.
Seriously, dude.
we're gonna
I
call
think
it-
he's still confused.
We're gonna call it the Win or Not Lose podcast. Wait, I don't want to detract and take away the shine from our
Yeah.
guy. How can people find you?
I'm an artist, not a salesman. That's my handle on Instagram. Luis Guzman on Facebook. We're in the middle of changing all that. Contact me, 908-296-2885.
Nope.
Give me a call, man. I want to keep growing. I want to keep inspiring. I want to keep interviewing great people. And I think, it's a melting pot. And I mean that because us here in the room together, that's a blessing in itself. But what these small little cameras in this room do is reach a plethora of more that we can only wish we could. So working together, community, inspiring, that's what I want my podcast to bring to the masses. And to answer, I want to still get back to your point about
Get back to it.
the question that Tom was asking me. I think the one thing we all forget to get to that mentality is the process. Greatness is a process. It's not something that is just you snap your fingers and it's here. It's built every day. Yeah. Every day you have to. So mentality is great to have, right? But process involves discipline. So you can be inspired to do anything. Oh, I want to run 5 miles. I want to make an Indian fusion, Japanese, Palestinian dish, whatever, right? And then you wake up the next day and you forget about it. Maybe next time. But discipline is the process that's going to get you to your goals. And to Tom's point earlier, me seeing somebody have that award and I don't have it, it's going to build more discipline within me to get to that point that I can take it.
And also found PBD's latest book, and that question I knew 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But gets kind of reinforced with PBD's latest book, Patrick Bet David, for those that don't know the acronym, is choose your enemies wisely. Because who you choose, it's not about, they said, I heard this before, you can tell a lot about a man on not who his friends are, but who his enemies are. I don't know if you ever heard that
Who
before.
are your enemies, Tom?
Me? My enemies are, I don't want to say them out loud, but much bigger media companies that are 10x of ours that I want to be as big as. I do not want to stop until we get there. To me, and just because I will call them opponents, maybe more opponents than enemies, but opponents that drive me to want to
Friendly
get there.
competition.
Yeah.
You need that, man.
Yeah.
If you don't have competition,
The
you die.
jersey's right for what inspired me to acquire Digest or reinforce Digest was I acquired Digest before the pandemic. I don't want to say too get demonetized. And during the pandemic, it was based out of Hoboken, based out of Gold Coast. Mm-hmm. And when they shut down, like Hoboken kind of early adopted and shut down early.
Okay.
All the advertising dried up. So I got super scared by being just in that
area.
small area. Yeah. The second part is when we were all home and consuming content, I was very unhappy with the local content I was consuming. I was very unhappy with it. Respectfully, NG.com and a few other ones that are out there. I just
Shots fired.
Very disappointed.
I still love you guys. Please continue to support my content.
Excuse me. They're a sponsor. Very disappointed in the content that was out there. Who had a firewall? Who had this? Who had that? So we pivoted from kind of being a local Hudson County rag, if you will, that was in print, to fully digital, Jersey wide, and now we reach over 1 million people a month.
That's
but
so
we're not
awesome,
stopping there until we get to 15 million people, which will exceed Jersey, which is what we want.
Well, you see, again,
Luis, who's your enemy?
my enemy, man. McDonald's. No, I say this. When it comes to business, in your case, we were talking about this, I don't believe that I want to, kill my enemy per se, but I want to beat them. I want to be better than them. I want to be greater than them. So I don't want to say, I got the answer for you. I think my enemy is the temptation to do wrong. And I think a lot of people have that same enemy. So
This
you're
man's
doing
been through some battles. That's what that tells me.
it's not even battles. It's real life, dude. It's straight up real life. Like I don't want to go back to where I came from. There's a book I was listening to the other day, The Millionaire Mind State. I want to say that's the name of it. You know of it? And they did a case study on this guy that was in sales. Great guy, did great. I forgot the guy's name in the book. Got fired from his position. No college degree, nothing. Started a carpentry business and became a multi-millionaire. Amazing story. You heard it, so you probably read about it. And the point I'm trying to make with that, you want to talk about enemy, I got one for you here. He was driven off the fear of going back to having nothing. Yeah. I was homeless at one point, okay? Wow. I went through struggle. My family went through struggle. So, I look at it like that's my enemy, is becoming lazy, becoming complacent, becoming weak, and going back to that. I never want to go back there. And, I'm thankful for the journey because it made me who I am today. But that's the biggest enemy I fight every day because it's kind of cheesy, but people always say it's you against you. It's true. You wake up, you're in a bad mood, you got to turn it good. You had a bad day, you got to turn it good. You can't go backwards, because if you go backwards, what's back there? A lot of stuff that I don't want to ever see again.
I'm almost believing this guy.
I believe him.
I
believe in you, Luis. Yeah. Okay, I will buy what you're selling. Even though he didn't pick my answer, which is still a win.
All joking aside, I do see like kind of the passion in like what you're doing, that you love to do it, and it's interesting enough is because we're all cynical, right? Mm-hmm. And I notice when I meet men who are faith first, there's an undertone of positiveness, if you will, and that kind of stuff. So I see that, and me being maybe somebody who's not as faith-based, the knee-jerk reaction is to be cynical.
Yeah, it's true, and right? I go through that too.
But I need to overcome that, and it's because I don't want a limiting like belief mindset.
But it takes time. I'm a man of faith, and I sometimes am very cynical. And thank God for my wife that pulls me back in, because I can feel a certain way, even though I know that's not true. That's what the enemy tells you. Yeah. You suck. You're not going to do that. You can't close that deal. Are you kidding me? And Jerry Seinfeld said this once. He says, up to the minute I go on stage, I want to vomit. I hate myself. I stink. Why are all these people here to see me? But the minute I go through those ropes and that velvet whatever, boom, I'm in. And I'm locked. And the same way with me when it comes to making a sale, when it comes to doing a podcast. Up to that minute, it's the lies that you tell yourself. But then when the lights are on, it's lights, camera, action, and your gift just takes over. And that's my mentality every time I jump into something, So, and lastly, and I know we got to wrap up, but
we don't have to wrap up.
All right. I
know the owner of the studio. We're going to be
We're
okay.
speaking to him.
Yeah.
But going back to like the hate and competition and this and that, and going back to what you said about being cynical and being optimistic, and I heard this the other day. It was a great quote. Robert Kraft said this. He said, jealousy and envy is an incurable disease. But make sure that if you encounter it, you're the recipient and not the donor. Mm-hmm. That hit me home. Because I'm like, the last thing I do is hate on people. Have I done it in the past? Absolutely. Boom, check. Don't need to go there. You're great. That person's great. They're blessed. You're blessed. You'll get there. But I rather have people bring it to me than me give it to people. And that's the mentality I think gets me to where I'm at, because being optimistic, wishing people well, even when you don't agree with them, it's the hardest thing to do. Telling people no, but still wish them the best, that's the hardest thing to do. I wish you the best, Tom. Yeah.
What about, though, again, not to get too biblical, but what about one thing I learned the hard way was you can't pour from an empty cup. Like I would give until I had like nothing. And then it made me weak, which put anybody who relies on me at risk, right? So how do you kind of make sure your cup's full and then you could start giving stuff out?
Good question. So it's all about boundaries. You got to create certain boundaries with not just friends or strangers, but family. it's very important that you create that space that I'm willing to help you. I'm willing to give you what you need, but there has to be some level of respect where you're not overstepping and now I got nothing, right? And even there's one thing to give somebody something, right? And you always give with no anticipation of getting it back, right? But when it comes to a trade or doing something for one another, quid pro quo, things of that nature, if it's not fair on both ends, why do it? You know, and that's where I set boundaries. Okay, I understand we've done this in the past. I appreciate you asking me, but the answer is no. And the most powerful thing you can say to somebody is no, because we live in a yes world mentality. You know, everybody wants a participation trophy. Everybody wants a pat on the back. Everybody wants to be told they're great. Sometimes creating that space of peace for you is by saying no, because that's where your cup will stay full. And then when you're able to see that you're not being manipulated, when you're able to see that you're not being used, then you use your judgment. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with giving people something financial, something spiritual, something emotional, but don't do it to the point where you're being abused and manipulated for it.
Oh,
you know?
On that note, Ankur, how can we find you? I'll put your links below, but how can we find you for those listening in?
newtheorypodcast.com/best host ever is my main landing page.
My man.
I'm sure Tom will put my links in the caption.
I'll put a link in the caption. All right. Well, listen, man. Thanks for coming out.
Thank you so much, man. Appreciate you guys both. And Car's the man. Appreciate you guys. Thank you. I'm an artist, not a salesman.